Are you tired of people just sharing screenshots of how awesome they're doing on Amazon? In this video, I'm going to show how it's actually done. My name is Adam. I'm a multiple seven-figure Amazon seller, and I'm going to break down how my most recent launch went from $0 to $30,000 in the first month. I built this channel because I didn't want to hold anything back. This is how it's really done. This is how you really build a $1 million business on Amazon. Let's do this. I've built and led multiple seven-figure Amazon brands. Now, I'm setting out to share how I did it, with radically transparent and detailed weekly videos. Join the journey with me and break free. Welcome to Heist. Okay guys, welcome to the inaugural video of this channel. Thanks for joining me in this journey. My goal really is to put up at least a video a week for a year. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. I'm just going to try to drop as much value as possible. One of my frustrations, I don't know if it's been one of yours, is just people flashing screenshots and kind of talking about how they're successful, but you never really get to see the detailed blow-by-blow detail of how a successful Amazon business is built. So we're going to kick it off today with a deep dive into a launch that went in its first organic month from $0 to $30,000. And we're holding nothing back really except for the name of the brand and the name of the product. So you'll have to leave that to the imagination. But otherwise, we're going to dive in and show exactly how it was done. Okay, so let's dig in by just looking at the financials and beginning with the end in mind. So this store is interesting in the sense that it was a brand new brand. It's a one ASIN launch. There's really not a whole lot of historical data or a bunch of numbers blending together. So the numbers you see here, literally a kind of video screenshot of the actual account, show that from the launch on December 20th in the first 10 days, pulled in just shy of $4,000. Again, some of that inorganic with some rebates and some kind of artificial pushes to improve rank. But the first natural organic month of January, you'll see here on the totals, just shy of $31,000. So kind of starting from a brand that didn't exist at all to in its first organic month, pulling down nearly $31,000. You'll see there that we had 753 orders that first month, as well as an 18% conversion rate. So real hardcore data, clean data, just looking at the single ASIN launch that we did. So how did we get there? Let's start peeling the onion back, and you guys can kind of see what it entailed piece by piece, part by part, to piece this thing together from start to finish. So starting with the market, I like passion-oriented markets. I think like you can either sell from passion or you can sell from pain. What's good about passion-oriented niches are people have an emotional attachment to it. When you like to buy something and when you want to buy something, I prefer that much more than kind of a necessity or a need that you just kind of like, look, I gotta buy this thing for my kitchen just because I need it. These passion-oriented brands are things that are a core part of someone's identity. It's what they care about. It's a key part of who they are. It's a key emotional attachment that they have to their passion. I find that you get a lot higher margin sales. You get a lot more in passion user bases and followings, and it's just a lot easier to scale and roll out additional products. So this brand was a brand new one, had no customers, no audiences, no likes, no emails, anything like that. Started from scratch. Sports and outdoors. Part of a customer journey, I think this is really critical and something that, I've done a ton of different product research methods, but the one I really like a lot is identifying a customer need or a passion-oriented niche, and then just following the journey that customer takes on that path and identifying the products that they purchase along that journey and seeing if those products and that journey aligns with an opportunity on Amazon. And so that's very much what this brand was about. So looking at the market, this is just a screenshot, a viral launch kind of screenshot showing what the market opportunity is. I'll caveat this by saying I typically don't go after something like this. I like those kind of singles and doubles in that $20,000 to $30,000 a month range. And you'll see here the heavy hitters, top 5 listings are pulling down nearly 170 grand a month with nearly 2,000 reviews. And then even if you're on page 1, the average is 75,000 a month with almost 1,000 reviews. You throw this into any kind of product research tool, it's going to be a hell no. Don't do it. And honestly and truly, these kind of metrics I typically wouldn't go after either. But I'll show you kind of looking that second layer deeper why we decided to tackle this one and why this made sense for us. So a fundamental question that is critical to ask when you're diving into identifying a product that you want to chase or a brand that you want to build is, why would a customer buy from your brand, or why would they buy your offer? And this is the logic that went into this particular product launch and this particular product decision. In this market, there's kind of two different categories of competitors. The first is dominated by about 3 or 4 big brand players. When I say big brand players, these are brands that people in this particular passion niche know about. They likely seek them out on Amazon. So they may, instead of buying from their website, they may just search on Amazon because they've got a Prime account and can get free shipping. So they're very well-known players. People know who they are, and they're actually typing and seeking them out. Most of these folks are premium price in this particular product category, between $50 and even up to $90 in price. They've got thousands of reviews in many cases, and they do about 150,000 or more a month on average in terms of sales volume. But they're not good at Amazon. So, they might only have a handful of pictures on their listing, and they may not be super well thought out. Their descriptions were basically like, here's the dimensions of the product. They're not selling what the product is. So really good brands, and they kind of get obviously high sales volume, but really crappy at Amazon. On the flip side, and you'll find this in a lot of niches as well, is some very heavily value-driven players. And basically their value proposition is decent at Amazon, but have the lowest price. A lot of these cheaper brands are from foreign sellers, so they have that, I would say, kind of awkward vibe to their listing where, their grammar might be a little bit off. They're using renderings over like stock photos of the product. Feels kind of weird. But if you're a customer on Amazon and it's like $30 versus $75, look, I'll take the chance, and I can always return it if need be. So these players are, surviving on about 15 to 35,000 a month, so still pretty decent volume in terms of sales velocity, but leaving a lot to be desired from a customer standpoint. So our goal with this one, and thinking, why would a customer buy our offer, is it's a decent value option to the big name brand players. So you can save 20-30% on what you would from some of these bigger players with similar quality and similar performance. Really good branding, cool lifestyle shots, well thought out sales copy that sells you and talks to you as the user in this particular passion niche. But it's also not super dirt cheap and like got that weird vibe to it. So we wanted to kind of play in between these two different categories with the goal that we could take out the leaders in this cheap brand category, as well as steal some of these customers that are seeking out some of these larger brands that aren't good at Amazon. So key number 1 is part of our launch process, and something that we always think about is know where you're going to win in a particular category. If you are a customer, think like a customer. You're searching on that page 1 results for the various keywords that are critical for the category. Why would you buy your offer? And be honest about it. Think like a customer. What it is about your price, what is it about how you put your listing together, what it is about your photos, what is it about the general feel that the product tells customers as they're seeking things out on the search results. And if you can't answer that honestly, like, yes, I as a customer would buy this, you're going to have problems. So use that kind of rule of thumb as you're digging into product research. So going into the strategy, there's 4 critical things that I vouch for and as part of my playbook when I'm launching a product. When I think about launches, I'm really thinking about that first 30-day window from when I flick the ASIN on and inventory is ready to go, to when I kind of pull off the reins and get into a more like natural maintenance mode. I look at that like typically like a 30-day hard press period, and it's made up of 4 critical actions that take place. The first is keyword and listing optimization, and I think that it's boring, it's analytical, it's not necessarily the sexiest thing that you can do on Amazon, but bar none, I think in addition to product research and getting that right, there's nothing that you can do to be more successful on Amazon than having a deep understanding of keyword research, as well as optimizing your listing for the most keywords. Amazon's a search engine. I mean, that's the value that this channel brings. It's got active buyers with buying intent, seeking very specific things by how they type, and the conversions on those things that they type and seek are incredibly high in the world of e-commerce. And so if you don't understand and can't take advantage of that keyword richness and using that data to your advantage, you can't succeed on Amazon. Vice versa, if you're good at it, you can kick the crap out of really big brands, and you can certainly steal from these players that aren't really sophisticated at how they leverage Amazon and keyword optimization. So for this particular niche, again, I'm going against two different kinds of competitors. One is a branded competitor that very much survives based on branded search terms and kind of plays up on their big brand in terms of getting sales velocity. The second is a little bit more using descriptive terms to describe the product. So I broke up the keyword analysis in kind of two parts. One, just assessing the top 10 ASINs that were branded, looking initially at where they ranked 30th or better for searches that are 500 a month or more. And then I'll also kind of go deep down into the longer tail keywords that are between 500 and less down to even 100 and look at those longer tail words that people tend to look at. I did the exact same thing for the non-branded players and kind of looked at those two analysis and had two really structured ways to target keywords and win in this category. What that kind of spit out at the end was a list of around 200 relevant words that I really wanted to kind of get indexed for in that first month that I really wanted to target. As well as I think it was like up to almost 1,000 words that I anticipated that this particular ASIN, if successful, could generate organic volume on over time. And just kind of looking at how it was actually a little bit over a month after launch, this graph here. I think it was probably about 6-week mark, but you can kind of see what this kind of deep level activity, and we spend days on this. This isn't something that we spend an hour or two on. We spend days culling through these keyword analysis to kind of make this right. But what that led to kind of coming out of this launch was 562 words in the top 10, generating over 260,000 monthly searches. And then almost 900 words that kind of hit that top 50 mark, almost 400,000 monthly searches. And this is kind of what you want to see. I kind of like to see for every $10,000 in revenue, you want to kind of have 80-ish thousand keywords that you're ranked for is kind of a general rule of thumb that we try to shoot for. So if you're looking to do something that's doing $30,000 a month, you kind of want to have over 240,000 searches. So this kind of fit within that shot target. But Amazon is a game of keyword optimization and ranking. Really key point. You win on more keywords, you win on Amazon against both big and little players. Diving into the pay-per-click strategy, again, a lot of strategies will say, hey, let's kind of send out an auto campaign or a broad campaign and discover what potentially good keywords are. I don't do that, certainly not in the launch month. We'll get to that later in terms of finding what words might exist. I don't want to confuse Amazon in this initial phase of launch. I want to be really crystal clear on telling Amazon and sending data signals to Amazon on what my ASIN is relevant for. And the best way to do that is to have hyper-relevant, hyper-targeted, and a very finite list of keywords that you initially send out to Amazon to let them know, hey, this is what this ASIN is, this is what the keywords that it's relevant for, and this is what you should start ranking me for organically. So what we initially do is we target no more than 20, but typically about 10 to 15 keywords that are hyper-relevant, decent in search volume, but don't necessarily need to be the biggest volume movers for a category. And we do very exact manual, small targeted campaigns without even reviews. So this is day one. We'll send these campaigns out to start generating indexing and organic ranking, and most importantly, signals to Amazon on what's relevant. We'll also do the same thing for the 5 or 10 most relevant competitors and do product targeting campaigns. Again, we want to associate ourselves with other ASINs within the market that are successful and that are relevant for the industry and the niche that we're targeting. And then the final thing is I want impressions. You are a nobody when you launch an initial ASIN. Amazon doesn't know if you're valuable or not. If you just kind of do like small bid amounts, you're going to be on page 2 of search rankings, and you're going to get really crappy click-through rates, and just your math isn't going to shake out well algorithmically for what Amazon's looking for. So we go 3 times bid amounts. We want to get those eyeballs as soon as possible on this listing, so people are clicking on it. We're getting data signals both for us to refine as well as for Amazon to know that we're legit. So don't go fishing for keywords during launch. Again, through the keyword analysis, you should know what you're relevant for. You shouldn't use this phase in Amazon to confuse it and think that you're something that you're not. We can do that fishing later. So focus on only the highly relevant, exact matching terms and competitors that you can target. Rebate ranking. Obviously, this is a hot topic and has been for the better part of the last year as far as kind of new strategies go for launches. It's definitely a tool that we leverage. It's not the be-all, end-all for us, but it is a nice supplement to helping that initial 30-day phase of getting your product in the hands of customers, getting feedback, as well as signaling to Amazon what's important from a keyword standpoint. So we use a 3-prong approach, which we'll get into in a whole other section later on in this video. But the first is kind of friendlies. I call them the second-degree friendlies. So this isn't your mom or your dad or your brother or sister or spouse. This is people that may be friends of friends, or you might be participating in Facebook groups and you kind of reach out to some people. But the idea here is to have a natural conversation with somebody, letting them know that you're launching a new business or a new product and that you would like to get their feedback on the product and get it in their hands as a user you respect. The second wave that we do using Facebook ads as well as ManyChat sequences is a 2-step super URL strategy where basically folks click on a link that's provided that goes to your Amazon listing, improves from rank juice and helps with your launch. And then finally, once products are organically starting to rank in that top 2 organic page range, we'll actually use some sequences to get people to do a search, find, buy type approach to buy the product. One thing that's critical here is like, I think a lot of people think that rebates are the strategy. Rebates are a tool. Rebates are not a business. Rebates are a component of a finite amount of your product lifecycle within Amazon. So it's not the be all end all, and know what it's good for and know what it's not. So it's not necessarily a strategy, it's a tool. The ultimate goal for us with rebates and with brands really over time is to build an army and an audience that you can weaponize during launches in the future. Obviously, the more launches you do, the more the snowball effect happens. You get it in the hands of more customers, you get more feedback, you have more of an audience that you can then tap into longer term. So that's really what the end game is with rebate launches. And then finally, reviews, again, another hot topic. Our general approach with reviews, there's kind of some simple and kind of deeper level ways, and I'll do a whole separate video on review strategy. But some of the things that we definitely check the box on during this 30-day period is you want to get in that early reviewer program, get that initial 4 to 5 reviews. That's a really small price to pay in terms of what you have to pay Amazon to get that. You're not guaranteed to get positive reviews if your product sucks, so know that. But that early review program is really important. We also use Sellerize as a software, both extension within Chrome as well as a software tool to programmatically trigger the request a review platform that exists within Amazon, so that when customers, after they purchase your product, are scrolling in their app, it'll come up there to request a review, or they might even get a message from Amazon via email to review your product. And then we do a lot of things with trying to engage and get customers to interact with us as a brand post-purchase. So we don't necessarily ask for the, I call it, you date before you kind of move to the next level in a relationship. It's almost the same thing with reviews. You don't necessarily come out right off the bat and say, hey, give me a review. We use a soft sell approach to try to integrate them into a communication platform so that we can later engage them and get feedback on products. And then another thing, which is a kind of a high-risk decision, it is definitely against Amazon terms of service. It's against some federal rules as well, that if you're going to give a free or discounted product, you can't do so in exchange for a review. So you got to tread really lightly here and understand what your risk tolerance is. But if you want to leverage some of those rebate customers and kind of ping them or communicate to them for feedback on the product, definitely don't ask for 5-star reviews, but there's a way that you can obviously communicate and request reviews if needed on that. But it's high risk. You definitely have seen lately that people's accounts have been compromised, and there is a short and long-term risk to your business by using that. But it's definitely an approach that you can use. Related to reviews, again, I think one thing that's important is we've all seen the insert cards that offer 5% off or 10% off or even 20% off. We've all seen the ones that say, hey, we're a small family-run business. Your review means the world to us. We would really like it if you could leave a review. If you've seen it a million times, your customers have seen it a million times. And what is the likelihood that insert just ends up in the trash and does zero to improve reviews? It's very high. So you've got to think differently with reviews. You've got to pattern interrupt. You've got to do something, again, thinking like you're a customer, that would instigate them to actually reach out or type in a link or follow back up with you because no one wants to leave a review, let's be honest. Unless you're really, really upset about a product or you're over the moon and it's changed your life, it's just not something that's natural, and that's why you see 1 to 2% review rates for most ASINs on Amazon. This is an example of what we did with this particular product. It had an element of the product that typically needs to be replaced because it gets worn out after 6 months. So we had a thing that basically just said, hey, do you like free stuff? Of course you do. Again, thinking in a voice that's more natural, like you're talking to a friend or a buddy, or you're out for dinner with somebody. Have a conversational tone to your insert cards. And then offer something that's unique and of value and distinct value for that customer and for that product. So in this case, we were basically offering a free replacement for that thing that wears out that the customer would otherwise need to go buy or shop or kind of wait again to replace it later on. And we're offering that free replacement for 12 months. So if I just bought this product, I know I'm gonna have to replace an element of it, typically within even 6 months, and someone's saying, hey, if you buy this from us and you return to this URL and you get a free replacement within 12 months, like, yeah, sure, that's worth my time to do. And it didn't cost us a lot to do in terms of offering value or costs out of our pockets to do so. So what we basically do is have like an enticing insert card. The URL then directs that customer to basically a landing page, a ManyChat landing page that shows the Amazon listing image, has some copy on it. And then when they send a messenger, boom, I now have you actively in a dialogue in Facebook Messenger where I can have a conversation with you. I can get your information. I can make sure that everything's going well with the product for you. And then down the line in the weeks or months ahead, I can follow up and say, hey, look, in a very conversational way, ask for feedback on the product. So this is our approach in kind of a funneled way to engage customers and drive more reviews. And with this particular product, I think we're humming at about a 5% review rate, which is 3-ish times what our competitors are doing, just through some of those natural things that people tend to do. So reviews are hard. Like, this is not something that you can just push an automation button and make it just happen magically. I mean, it requires a multifaceted, thoughtful, hardworking approach and elbow grease to make these things happen. It also requires you to think differently. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a famous marketing guy called Seth Godin, but he's fantastic. If it's not his first book, it's one of his earlier ones. Definitely one of his most popular books is called Purple Cow. And it's a theory that I really subscribe to with reviews. And the thought is like, imagine you're driving through the Midwest, right? And you see fields upon fields of cows all the time. It's like an everyday occurrence. Like, so what? There's another field of cows. What if you were driving along and saw a purple cow in the middle of a field in Kansas? You'd be like, okay, holy crap, what the hell is that purple cow? You'd probably pull your car over. You'd probably whip out your phone and take a photo and post it to Insta and, share with all your friends that you saw a freaking purple cow. It's abnormal. It's different, and it caught your attention. Same thing happens with reviews to instigate that, what I call a pattern interrupt. You want it to be different. You want it to strike a chord. You want it to be valuable to a customer, and you want it to be in a voice that's not what they normally hear from companies. So pattern interrupt and thinking about why would you as a customer leave a review and what would be enticing for you. Implement that into your funnel and into your strategy to generate reviews, especially at a launch. Again, our goal here is to get a minimum of 10 reviews at a launch. I like to get 20 ideally is kind of like our minimum target. But really 30 is kind of where we want to see. In this particular launch, we ended up, I think, with 32 reviews at the end of that first month. It's critical to get that initial momentum from a listing and get longevity from an organic ranking standpoint. So that's the 4-pronged strategy. Let's dive into some of the economics. Again, stuff that I don't think you really see from most sellers that are kind of talking about what they do. I want to dive in and show you these are the actual numbers. So our factory costs, including tariffs as well as shipping, to land in the U.S. was $12.85. Freight and duties were the separate line items. So it's $12.85 factory costs, 50 cents for freight. This was a small, actually air freightable item, which is pretty rare for what I do. But this one was air freightable, which was cool. And then the duties were 64 cents. And then you see the Amazon fulfillment fees, again, a smaller product, as well as a referral fee and very minute monthly storage because it's a relatively small product. So our target goal with this, we launched at $35. But our target kind of landing spot was $42, which we actually achieved. We even tested up to $45 actually, but our target case in this case was $42. And in that case, we basically would have generated, if we hit our target, a 44% gross margin before pay-per-click and other fees, which is awesome. That's kind of a sweet spot where we want to be. Equally important, we also want to map out worst case. So what if things don't go as planned? What if you actually have to dive your price down to compete with that kind of lower tiered value player to even survive on organic listings or organic rankings? I wanted to know that going in, and it's very important to map not only what you think is going to happen, but also what could happen if it goes bad. So we did that here in worst case, and even in worst case, we were still at 33% gross margin. So it actually wasn't too bad. It kind of alleviated the financial risk decision for us on this one. And then we want to plan out the scenario, like what are we actually going to do tactically with from a sales velocity standpoint. So the top non-branded players, again, the ones that we want to take out, at least in this initial 30 to 60 day phase of this product, we're doing about 750 to 950 units a month. So we kind of mapped out a high expected low case based on that kind of a competitor that we were targeting. And we actually assumed the expected case, that middle case of 500 a month. And it just shows you there, hey, if we achieve that, we'll basically do 20,000 in sales and we'll generate $9,200 in gross margin. So we kind of knew what that was going to be. It also informed us for what we needed to order initially. So looking here, we had a lead time of 30 days. Again, because it was air freightable into Amazon, was only 10 days, so 40 days net on that. And then we like to budget a little bit of safety stock. I generally do a couple weeks at least, up to 4 weeks worth of safety stock, just in case you overshoot what your sales velocity is anticipated to be. Gives you a little bit more wiggle room to get that second order in and reduce stock out risk. So in this case, we ordered 60 days worth of inventory, which equated to about 1,000 units. So from that first order of 1,000 units, the math was basically like, hey, if we do our target case and we do what we think we're going to do on this first order, we're basically going to generate $18,000 or a little north of $18,000 from a $12,000 investment, or 145% ROI. Again, in the money, that would be great. Like all the math checked out, boom, we're bonus. That's kind of where I wanted things to be. Worst case scenario though too, wouldn't have been exactly how we wanted it to go, but we still would have come out relatively unscathed if we hit worst case. So again, that scenario planning from a financial standpoint, coming into launch, knowing what your numbers are, very critically important. So key number 6, know what your best and worst case is. And ideally, even in that worst case scenario, try to make it so that the financial impact is pretty minor, if an impact at all. So even a break even in the worst case is an ideal kind of scenario to kind of map out in advance. So that's the economics. Let's get into the fun stuff. This is the launch. Again, it's a 30-day period that I look at this in, and there's kind of 3 different things I want to kind of go over that we do. So first of all, friendlies. We talked about this a little bit before, but don't find somebody that you use the same internet connection with or the same house or the same computers. Like Amazon's not stupid. There's computers in the back end that are going to catch that, and you are going to get dinged for it, and your account may be at risk, and you don't want to have people that are really close to you reviewing your products. It triggers things that are bad, and it's not necessarily ethical. So I like to find secondary people. So I'll post on Facebook like, hey, I'm launching this new brand. Does anybody know somebody that's interested in this kind of a product? You can go to forums where those kind of buyers are in that particular niche or product category. So if it's, say, a cooking product, get into forums that are cooking, get into Facebook groups that are oriented around cooking, or TV shows or Instagram influencers, and kind of follow them and see where people are at, and then identify people within that community that you can get the product in their hands at a deeply discounted rate to get their initial feedback. So that's kind of a wave 1 that we do. Second comment I would say is like, don't do 100% rebates. If you've done these campaigns for a while, you will see that it is filled with people that all they do is 100% rebates. They have really, really poor buyer quality scores. Amazon knows that they're crappy buyers, that they leave a lot of reviews. Oftentimes their reviews get deleted. They return products. It is a headache and it's a mess. Even having some amount of money in that a buyer needs to pay, even if it's deeply discounted and you're obviously below cost, helps a ton to make this a lot cleaner of a process. It also does this, like even if it's like $5 or $10, you aren't going to pay $5 or $10 and go through the act of actually going into Amazon, logging into your account and buying and transacting on something if you don't somewhat care about it. So it also gets you buyers that care about your product, care about what you're doing, and have some skin in the game. From that, we do Facebook ads to ManyChat to a 2-step URL. Pixelfy is the URL that we like to use, the Supreme 2.0. I've got a link down below in the description here that will take you to Pixelfy if you're interested. It's cheap. It's $10 a month. You can use it during launches and then shut it off when you're not using it. But it's a really cool software tool that also does a lot of things with timestamps and other things in the URL that Amazon looks at to make it look a lot more natural and a lot cleaner of a link. Once we get to page 2, typically on a launch, that's when we flip over to having people actually searching the term and finding a term that you're targeting at launch to go organically find, search, and buy the product. And then finally, something I did uniquely with this launch, and our next video, which brings up a good point. If you're digging this, I probably have 10 subscribers by the time you watch this, maybe even less. Brand new channel. If you're getting any value out of this, subscribe for me. I know everybody asks you to subscribe, hit the bell. I'm going to go ahead and do it too, because it would mean a lot if you added some organic juice to the algorithm for YouTube for me. So click that. But our next video is going to be on YouTube ads, and we'll get into that. But generally speaking, I did this on this launch, which was launching Reddit ads to a 2-step URL to really drive some external Amazon traffic and really help boost this launch and get us kind of that last week really boosting performance. While this is all happening, I'm doing focused aggressive pay-per-click like we talked about. So those 10 hyper-targeted words in a manual exact, targeting 5 really similar ASINs that are powerful to rank. And I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One, it's giving me data points. It's letting Amazon know that, hey, these are keywords that I should start to index this ASIN for. What it's also doing is it's making it a lot more natural. Like if you look here, if you got some friendlies that are buying product, you've got some rebate customers, their conversion rates might be 70-80%. Highly unnatural for Amazon. Even really good selling products don't have conversion rates that high. What the focus aggressive pay-per-click does too is it gets you a lot of eyeballs and clicks on the product that won't convert as much as it will once you have more reviews and when you're a little bit more mature of a product. But what it will do is it'll help normalize out those high conversion rate channels that you're driving and make it a lot more natural Amazon. So it's also critically important to do that too. So costs, again, I'm keeping in mind looking at the scenario analysis. Again, what are my numbers? What do I have to afford for a launch process? Again, in my target case, I basically have $6,000 from my upfront investment to what I'm actually bringing in terms of gross margin from that first order. I've got $6,000, which I can anticipate kind of being juice to help fund this launch. So I'm keeping that in my mind in terms of what my budget might be for this. And this is what it looked like for us. So basically we did 69 rebates. We had 4 of those customers that canceled before the product even shipped. So we actually didn't even rebate them at all. And then after all these product ships, we had only 2 customers. If you guys have done these a while, sometimes if you're doing 100% rebates, you'll have a whack load of people return the product after. We only had 2 out of that 69 initial that actually returned the product. Again, because it was offering a 75% discount, not 100%, and we were doing a launch price of $35, our net rebate cost was $14.66. So it was basically product costs, the Amazon fees, but because customers were paying us 25% of that listing price, it reduced the cost per rebate for us. So in total, we spent just shy of $1,000 on rebates. Facebook ads to generate those buyers was $420. And then again, we did a handful of days of Reddit ads as well. So net, this launch cost us $1,400 to get this thing out. So an unscientific rule of thumb that I like to use if you're budgeting launches, roughly $1,000 for every $5,000 in product costs is purchase is kind of a healthy amount that we like to think about. So another lens is it's about $500-ish per $10,000 in revenue you're targeting. So in this case, if we were going to be targeting a $30,000 revenue month, which we were kind of targeting around 20 to 30, we were in that $1,000 to $2,000 range was what it was going to cost us. And that's right around what this rebate ended up costing us at launch. So to summarize, this kind of walks you through a screenshot of the account during that launch period. So again, we launched December 20th. Kind of went in what I would call more unnatural kind of launch phase for about 10 to 12 days. Took the reins off after that and basically went pay-per-click and organic only, which is basically what we've done since launch. And you can kind of see all the different price changes and the kind of steps that we went through on this. And then this is the first kind of full month that this product was out there. You'll see towards the middle part of January, we had a brief stock out. Actually, we sold a couple that day, then stocked out, and then we were back in stock the next day. So there was some operational kind of getting stock back in and doing all that tends to happen with these launches. But this is what you want to see, right? We were kind of humming into that kind of natural $1,500-ish a day range, kind of steady state, and stuck the landing and did what we needed to do. This was the launch keyword that we targeted. Unfortunately, I didn't do a screenshot of this the first month, so this is kind of all time. You'll see in that really kind of on that far left here is where all the launch activities were happening. But We had a massive stock out because of coronavirus and Chinese New Year kind of challenges here, which you'll see it was unranked for. But we've basically been steady state top 5 on this targeted keyword since launch. So this is, again, what you want to see in terms of sticking the landing from a launch. This is a look at pay-per-click spend. Again, not something I would necessarily expect. I'm more than comfortable to lose money in this first period of time on pay-per-click. In fact, you can expect to lose money. I definitely don't want to see ACoS over 70, 80% coming out of that first month. But if it's in that 50, 60 range, that can happen. In this case, if you remember, the gross margins were about 44%. So anything less than 44%, and we're basically making some form of margin on it. And in this case, we were well in the money. Throughout that first month, we spent $2,600 to get $10,000 for an ACoS of 25%. Again, great sign. We were in the money on pay-per-click, and that's what that looked like. So from an ROI standpoint, if you look at the upfront product costs as well as the launch cost, it was roughly $14,500 for us to launch this product. Again, the math still shakes out if it's a lower price launch that you're doing 10 grand in revenue. Maybe you're only spending 4 grand. So this scales depending on what market you're going after. But in this case, it was kind of, I would call it a medium-sized market. Upfront investment was just about $15,000. But here's where Amazon's freaking awesome and why I love the model, and I think why we all do this and why we all love Amazon. In a very, very conservative world, in fact, I think we'll blow the socks off these numbers, but if you assume very conservative numbers, we'll do $300,000 top line on this product in revenue this year. Our gross margin, even at conservative levels of 35%, again, remember that before pay-per-click, we're in the 40% range easily on this, but even if it's 35%, that would bring in $105,000 in gross margin. We generally spend about 10% of the revenue on pay-per-click advertising. So assuming $30,000 in spend on advertising, that's going to put $75,000 in net income for this product alone into our pockets. A return on that $14,500 initial investment of over 500%. These are kind of like very realistic, very like attainable numbers, but in the world of investing, that's kind of blow your socks off stuff. To kind of put a exclamation point on that, let's imagine that you're Nostradamus and you could have predicted coronavirus and all the changes in remote work that transpired over the last 3 or 4 months. And you could have anticipated that Zoom would have gone from 10 million monthly users in December to nearly 300 plus million monthly users in the month of April. And you would have bought that stock. Let's say you took that same investment of $14,500, you dumped it into stock on February 3rd. You could have envisioned what was going to happen. You would have made $28,000. So that's like the darling stock market story. I think it's valued at $47 billion now, more than the top 7 airlines in the United States. That would be a miracle trade. And you're not even coming close to the ROI that we are seeing from this investment. Again, a lot of things went right. This doesn't happen all the time. And I've made mistakes and not all of them perform this way, but this is a very realistic, attainable, and these are real numbers from this launch to show you kind of what the value is from an ROI standpoint. Okay, so lessons learned. First of all, think like a customer. It's very easy to kind of buy your own BS and let the numbers, even if they're giving you warning signals, tell you something that's not going to happen when customers are actually out searching for your kind of product. So think like a customer in terms of what your offer is and your product decisions. This is key. I know, mentality is so huge with this stuff, but I look at launches like literally it's a 1-round fight. I've got 1 round and 1 round only to see if I can make this thing work. And oftentimes it's true. If you don't do well in that first 30 days and you don't kind of stick a landing and you don't get your launch right, it's very unlikely and very difficult to have success with a product if you don't get that initial launch and that initial phase right. So look at this like it's a 1-round fight. You're throwing haymakers. You're going for the TKO. You've got to push the chips in. You got to give everything you've got during that initial period, because if you get it right, you get into maintenance mode after that, and it's really diving in and diving out, and it's not a ton of work. But look at it in that finite amount. Like, I've got to throw haymakers. I got to knock somebody out in round 1. That's how I think about launches. Third point, know your numbers. Coming into it before you decide to get the product, understand what both the high, medium, and low case might look like, both from a unit margin standpoint for the product, as well as for what you anticipate the launch is going to do and the performance of that product is going to do coming out of launch. Have a playbook. You'll see here I've got a very sequenced kind of like 4 key pillars that I'm targeting throughout this process between finding the product, doing my keyword listing and optimization, my pay-per-click launch, my reviews, my rebate launch strategy. I've got a very distinct set of things that a lot could happen and a lot could go wrong, but I at least know what the next thing is that I got to do and adjust and tweak to make things successful. And then finally, be nimble. Things are going to happen, whether it be delays in logistics or your costs maybe happen differently. You have an issue with the conversion not happening how you want it. Like, there's going to be stuff that's going to happen, especially early on in the launch. Be nimble. Be ready to make changes. Be ready to make adjustments on the fly, and don't get too stressed out or emotionally invested if you have a bad day or a couple bad days. Think things long term and be nimble and be ready to adjust. So guys, that's my first ever video on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope there's some value. I'm not going to do this a lot, but I want to kind of get some initial feedback from people. So if you're able to subscribe, like the video, kind of like an Amazon launch, it lets the YouTube algorithm, however that works, know that I'm legit and know that my videos might be interesting to other people that are looking for Amazon content. So you help me from that standpoint. But also, if you leave a comment, leave like an Amazon FBA comment, or leave me a comment about what else you'd like to learn about how I operate my 7-figure businesses on Amazon. And within the next month, I think towards the end of June, I'm going to drop somebody that leaves a comment $100 gift card on Amazon. So make some money. Hopefully you got some value out of this. This is going to be a fun journey, guys. Look for videos every week, and we'll see where this thing takes us. Cheers.